Hi, I'm Matt from HockeyReviews.ca, and this is the Bauer Supreme Ultrasonic Glove Snapshot Review. So we also have the 3S Pro here, which is slightly different, has enough differences to definitely talk about. So this won't be in this video. The 3S Pro will be in a separate video where we compare it to the Ultrasonic. This one specifically will be the Ultrasonic compared to the 2S Pro. We'll do the hand fit test as well. And I have the basically entire line of Supreme gloves all the way, and since Bauer started making them. I don't have the Nike Bauer ones yet. But we'll talk about the 1S because this kind of carries on from what the 2S Pro was. So we'll kind of go down that family line and lineage a little bit. This is a snapshot review. I'm not buying these gloves. You can see the tag right here. They're $239 Canadian. I have the 2S Pros that I'm pretty happy with still. And I'm basically going for more pro stock gloves, like stuff like this, instead of buying retail versions. For the Ultrasonic, I guess we'll talk about why I'm not upgrading from a 2S Pro to these, going to buy these like outright and to actually use them. But the snapshot will cover everything that I think is pretty important and really go over the details and what I think about these gloves. Before we jump into all of that, if you live in the United States and you want to support the channel and you're going to buy hockey equipment anyways, check out the link in the description to Pure Hockey or Pure Goalie. Clicking that link, making a purchase, gives me a kickback. It helps support the channel so I can keep making videos and doing full reviews. Equipment's expensive and I have to buy it usually all the time in order for me to actually use it. Otherwise, if you want to support the channel, check out the links in the description to Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee. Everything that goes through there comes right back in the channel. So now for a bit of an overview of what is happening with the Supreme line. So first, we're just skipping the NX sheet. This is going far enough back. We have the MX3, which is this style of glove. This is a pro stock glove, but a lot of this stuff was still there. We had Poron all throughout the fingers and the backhand, and we had a Poron liner. This one's a double Poron liner because it has some custom specs for Mark Stone. I think it was Mark Stone. Poron liner in there, Poron on the fingers and everything. 3 break, as you can see, like that. The evolution of that was the 1S. You can see the backhand getting a bit more complicated. You have that one extra break in the middle and it kind of splits these all out, and it works really well in terms of the hand brakes. Really moves with your hand really well. This one moved with your hand well as too, but this one was just even better. This one doesn't have a fancy liner, but the actual 1S retail gloves did have that liner that was really similar in what this one was. So it did have that Poron liner. This is a custom spec for Marcus Johansson, and it's a -1 cuff, as you can see how tiny it is right there. So that the 1S glove did actually have that liner in there, and also Poron all through the fingers as well. So, and this is a perfect time to go over what the Poron fingers and everything looked like. So with these versions, which are the pro stock, but as well as the retail versions of the gloves, it basically looks like this. So you had a Poron at the bottom, a hard density foam that almost looks like a styrofoam, as you can see, and then a plastic insert over top. So you have that. Obviously it wasn't just as long as the quickest one I could find, and that would give you pretty good impact dispersion. Plastic insert, harder foam, and then a soft smart foam, the Poron on the bottom to really give that comfort and extra protection. The backhands were basically all made up as this as well, and it did have a plastic insert on top of like all the backhand pieces as well. It came from a 1X Pro glove. It was a pro stock glove, but the retail ones were the same makeup, and I've done a whole video of deconstructing it up here and talking about it. So Bauer has gone a different route with the 2S Pro line and kind of with the Vapors as well. They moved out of plastics and using a ton of Poron. So basically, instead of having plastic, that hard density foam, and then this Poron, you have a hard density foam at the top that is very, very dense. You have a denser foam right here, and then you have a softer foam down here. Now, for the 2S Pro, they took out Poron everywhere but the backhand. So supposedly the backhand still has Poron in there. The liner does not, so that was kind of a downgrade on this one compared to the 1S, because that liner, again, did not have Poron. And the fingers and everything like that didn't have Poron either, so it was kind of a downgrade in that sense. The backhand did get a huge change, as you can see though, in terms of the brakes and everything on this. Much more, I'm going to say anatomical. This is a super tight fitting glove and feels awesome and everything, but this one just kind of is a slightly different shape and everything, kind of fits your hand slightly different. But the important part here is the Poron is basically all gone. Excellent material. Pros, all the pro NHL gloves and stuff like that had this. It's super protective, great design. Poron's expensive though. So every time a company uses Poron and like a third party material, you have to pay for that. And Poron is not cheap. Poron is also heavy compared to normal foams. It is also takes in water compared to normal foam. So there's kind of pros and cons to it all. Personally, the Pro Stock gloves with the Poron in it, which is like what this is, are awesome. The protection is unreal. And especially with the backhand padding, it finally got to the point after this one where basically this one didn't have Poron back here, but the one after, the 1S, did have Poron back here and did have a Poron insert in the back. So it was like the best of everything basically, and they were really good. So unfortunately, Bauer decided to go a different route with the 2S Pro. Still has Poron in there, but it's not throughout the whole glove anymore, and plastic inserts aren't in there as well anymore. And you can really see that because you can bend all these little pieces, and we'll kind of show that in the ultrasonic as well. Now, with that said, this glove was still a really solid glove and basically my favorite retail glove there was on the market, especially at the time. I did think it was a step back from the previous one, which is the 1S, but the cuff was really awesome on this, and I really like this glove, and I still use it today, and it's a great glove, and like I said, it's really good. It's just they kind of took away some things on this and cheapened out a bit, and it was disappointing. And now we get to the ultrasonic, and the reason I wanted to talk about this is because we see a lot of the same things on here as you did on the 2S Pro. So the foam package is the same thing, where it has a softer foam, a dense foam, and then a denser foam on top. So it's a triple layer density of foam. No more plastic inserts as well in there. Backhand, it still says it has Poron right here. So you do have that Poron in the backhand. I haven't really been able to feel where it was. I'm assuming it's either right here or right under here, but I can't really see it and can't really tell all that much. But it's supposedly in there, and I'm gonna say they're not gonna be lying about it. Now, the big part about this glove that they changed and is new is the flex cuff. As you can see, flex cuff, and they call it their amp cuff. So it's the active motion protection. And as you can see, it's a flex cuff like this. So a ton of NHL players have actually been wearing 2S Pros with flex cuffs like this built into them. And actually it's almost more of a clone on the Pro ones as the Warrior QRL ones were than it is kind of totally this one. It's similar, but it seems like the 2S Pro one is a little bigger than this because you can really see it stick up higher than what this is. Regardless, this is a really similar design to what Warrior did on the QRL line and the QRE line, where it's a spandex all the way around and under here as well, and gives you that flex cuff that moves with your wrist like that. Very different type of design from the CCM 11K, not even close to what that is, but an interesting design nevertheless, and that is a big improvement on this glove. Warrior's kind of moving away from how this flex cuff is on their new QRE10, which is a terrible glove. But this one is kind of taking its place as a much better option, and this is a pretty solid design right there. So I got to give a ton of credit to Bauer for actually implementing this. A ton of pros wanted it, and they had it there too. We'll talk about more of that a little bit too, but we're just going over some of the differences between the 2S Pro. And you can really see the cuff difference in that size. Massive blooming cuff on this, which honestly moved pretty well with you. Like you can see, it's not quite a flex cuff. It does have that, but it doesn't have it back here. But it does move pretty well with you, and these are pretty broken in for me. So as you can see, pretty good motion all there, but it does flare out really big and is really like a massive cuff. So a lot of people didn't really want that design. So this one gives you a much more lower profile cuff. And I'm sure with breaking this into, it's going to move even more once you start using it and everything. But the next big change on here, and it's kind of a pro, but kind of a con, is you now have these shot boost fingers. Yeah, supposedly there's some marketing thing in here where these help your shot because of your whatever. That's the shot boost part. 3-piece fingers for middle finger and ring finger, and 2-piece for index. So that's kind of a downgrade compared to this one where it had 3, but it's an upgrade on here. Now, according to Bauer, the point is for this is these fingers are more curled and this one's straighter out when you're holding a stick. So that's kind of the idea of this. As you can see, they're not really wrong with how this works. These 2 fingers do wrap pretty good, and that does help with the coverage, like as you can see there. And these 2 fingers do, like there's not a big gap there or anything. So it's kind of open. There is a little bit of a gap here, as you can see right here, but it's not massive, and these 2 are closed off really well. So it kind of makes sense there. Now, with that said, using a 3-piece design like this one and wrapping it around here, as you can see, would not cause any issues at all. And they could have just done this. They could have had just 3 fingers all the way through, because that's not going to get in the way of the person shooting or anything. You can see this 3-piece design here is much better because that spot is open up. But this could have been a 3-piece design as well, and it could have been just ever so slightly better. As you can see, it's not a huge issue, and it does a decent job of covering, and Bauer does a really good job of basically ensuring where these breaks happen. They happen in the right spot, so there's not a huge gap there. but it could have been a 3-piece design just like the other ones. You could have put a break right in there or right slightly down more just where those ones are, and it would have had that ever slightly better coverage, as you can see, and it would just fall a little bit better. So while Bauer is right in the sense that these do work really well and this one's not bad, it could have just been this, and that's kind of disappointing to me because they really did kind of cheapen out there, right? You gain an extra finger of 3 breaks and you take one away. Just keep them all there. They all could have been 3 breaks there and it would have been great. True does the 3 breaks everywhere. Verbero's done 3 breaks on every single one. True usually doesn't do the pinky. There was no reason for this not to be 3 besides honestly cost cutting. So it's kind of disappointing in that. The other difference on this is they're kind of making the backhand more simple and a more simple design. As you can see, 3-piece now instead of the 4. Honestly, this doesn't actually matter that much and make a huge difference because this one piece never broke anyways when you're actually wearing it. So when you're going like this, you can see there's like no separation there ever. There is separation here, but that still happens with the 3-piece. This one really never ever separates from the block unless you're really folding this glove in half. Kind of like I'm trying to do here to give an example, but even then it's very minimal and not a huge deal at all. And again, that's the one block that's kind of folding. And when you go to the ultrasonic and I put this on, you can see as well, it folds, it still closes really well, really like feels wonderful. And you can see there's no difference in this break at all. So there's no real change there. It's simplifying the design, which is cost saving because it is less little pockets and that is more material and it's more labor intensive. But you can see that doesn't really have any effect on actual movement or anything. I have seen pictures of players in the KHL with ultrasonics on already where you can notice this gap and like when they're closing their glove, and this gap isn't the greatest thing ever. They could have put one of these in here just to kind of make sure it doesn't ever get hit, but it does open up a decent amount and you really could jam a stick in there if it like really happened. It's going to be a rare thing, but still when that's on the top of your hand and you're kind of holding a stick like this, and when these break in, they move more. That could come in there. So it could be maybe a little bit better, but without like breaking this one up right here, that's not going to make a huge difference. And I don't really need to do that. I don't think so. This isn't awful. It is simplifying, but it's not a bad thing. So we'll start with some features on this thing and kind of go over everything really quick, just as an overview as well. Their palm is the new Maxconnekt Palm. It's like a gray Nash instead of an ivory Nash. Feels really soft and comfortable. It feels pretty similar to this, maybe a little bit less soft than that, but it feels good in the hands. Bauer's always done a decent job of palms when they don't put anything crazy on here. You really don't need this though, which is kind of disappointing. You can see all the Pro Stock, just a single layer ivory. You could have done something like that on this too. I understand they have the extra layer for durability, that makes sense, but you don't really need all this stuff here. It's not a wear guard or anything. It's just printed into the material, as you can see. So it's not going to make any difference at all. It's marketing really, but again, not something that needs to be there, but it is there. I mentioned it has the 3-piece thumb still, which is good. And I mentioned still because Bauer took it out of their Vapor line. They say you only need the 2-piece now. 3-piece is still a great design and a unique design, and it's been in Bauer gloves for a long time. So I'm not sure why they took it out besides cost cutting reasons and for going for lightweight. It's nice to see it still exists here. It's a good, really good thumb, really flexible thumb, basically the most flexible thumb on the industry. Spandex gussets, so they're super comfortable and they flex with you. You can see all that flexing with your fingers. This is fine. One way you can tell if these are like Pro Stock and not retail spec Pro Stock, a lot of the NCAA teams all have spandex here, where the NHL teams will have specific player features. Like this one is all Nash all the way through, and this one is spandex with Nash down here. Obviously retail is just spandex, but generally NCAA, the players don't get specific glove specs. They just get team gloves and they pick it. So that's one way to that's kind of interesting I found, because I've been looking for a pair of these at Pro Stock with the Nash right here instead of spandex, but it's harder to find, especially NCAA. Anyways, spandex there, comfortable, super comfortable, moves your hand at everything really well. We have that flex cuff, like I mentioned, and it's a pretty good design, to be honest. And they have the thermocore liner, which is a slightly different color than the old one, but it feels comfortable and it should be fine. The flex cuff does have a ton of spandex in there, as you can see, and really does move well with your hand and is a pretty good design overall. Another thing that's really cool about this cuff though, is they kind of include a second cuff. So there is this piece right here. So this is separate from this cuff right here, which is pretty standard. This cuff is pretty standard in Bauer stuff. No plastics in here either, which the Pro Stock ones definitely do have. But it does have this really cool cuff right here, which is a nice little feature, kind of like what these short cuffs do right here. So you get that short cuff design, and you get that flex cuff. Pretty awesome little piece right there. I can see a lot of pros going to ultrasonic and doing the Russian spec, and what that is almost like a -1 like these. What a lot of Russian players do is, or European players kind of in general, is they cut out the inner cuff completely. So they would just cut this out, so then you would just have this cuff, but it's not that bad because it does have that little extra piece there. Just something I think is kind of interesting. The one other thing I want to call out about this glove that's really nice is this cuff is a great design. So you can see how their cuffs kind of come up above all this, like the material right here. And it's always happened. This part has always been kind of sloped. Basically what that does is it allows the cuff to flex over this foam and kind of move more over the glove. And the more this breaks in, the more it will be mobile and continue like getting better and better at that. It really allows the cuff to go over it. A lot of companies, cuffs kind of like underneath this piece and get stuck, especially when you go like this. This one really does move a little bit better over the glove itself, so it is good for that extra mobility. The wording on this is changed to be more looking like a normal glove. You can see the Bauer is just white now, and it's 3D detailed, but it's not like that clear stuff. And this does peel. Mine's not peeling that bad, but my producer does have one that's peeling. So this should hopefully be a little bit more durable because it's not like a film over it to make it silver. But still, this is looking more like just what these are, which is just stitching, as you can see, like embroidery. So I don't really know why they don't just embroider this, just like the Pro ones do, because the Pro one looks better and is going to last longer than what these ones are. So it's kind of annoying that Bauer is still doing that. Way too much crap right here. It's just a printed detail with that Supreme Armor logo thing. The detailing's fine and everything, but it's just, this is kind of like, you don't need this, right? Just get rid of these weird materials and just use nylon. But I guess you got to make it fancy for retail. Unfortunately, that's where we're at. Nice pinky pieces right here and side protection, kind of similar to what was on the 2S Pro, but now this is all one piece, but it's fine because it segments fine, it moves fine, there's no issues with it. They do a solid job on that protection right there. On the index finger side protection, this is a really hard foam, super dense. Doesn't feel like there's a plastic insert in these, but all the Pro Stock ones do, and I kind of wish it was there. I broke my index finger from a Bauer retail glove, and it even had plastic insert, so I'm kind of worried that that isn't quite enough. I wish there was more there. And then you have a pretty dense foam all through here as well. So because this is a bought glove, I can't do my full protection tests on it. I can't really whack it with mini sticks anymore because if I damage it, I can't get my money back for it. With that said, I did do some impact testings with hitting and everything, and I've had zero problems with this, using it and playing for my stuff. There's some weaknesses with it. It's not as good as with the plastic inserts and with the full Poron throughout it, but it's been fine and it's been competitive to other retail gloves like the CCM. Haven't really worn True, so I can't talk about that, but the CCM and Warriors, the protection on this has been fine compared to those. So it doesn't have that plastic insert, which I wish it would for the top level, because it's really not like as good as the Pro Stock. And again, this is going to be me harking Pro Stock a lot. Just buy Pro Stock, they're generally better. This is a good glove, it's a solid glove. So is this, but it could be just a little bit better, and that's going to be the same thing here. I did the impact test, and you can feel it more than you would without that plastic insert, so it's slightly disappointing there. They could make it just ever so slightly better. It would be nicer with that. Same with the cuff. The cuff protection right behind here does have this gap basically because of this, and it's not comfortable. That's like a big weakness on these. Without a plastic insert in this cuff, you are also losing that protection as well. So it's kind of disappointing there. But the other thing I want to call out about these gloves, and it's on this glove specifically, so that's why I put it on, is I feel like Bauer's quality has been going down, especially like the 2X Pros were comfortable at points, but you could feel the seams. And this is no different. So this glove feels kind of okay, but whenever this finger basically comes to this seam right here, you can feel all the stitching in here, and you can feel like it's super uncomfortable. I'll just put it that way. You can feel all that stitching right where I'm kind of, you can see my finger right here. You can feel all that stitching in there on the side of your finger, basically right here. So whenever this, like if I move my hand this way in the glove, I can feel it's really uncomfortable. It's not nice. If I'm holding it like this and close my thumb, it pushes the glove against it. It's not comfortable. It's not nice. Otherwise, the gloves are extremely comfortable. It's like a few really poor spots. You can also feel it out here too, at seams here. And same with this glove. So this glove, me just doing with this thumb, I can feel all right here. And it's not nice. And it should be. Like this glove and the liner, as you can see, is super soft, super comfortable, really nice. The whole glove feels so nice, and then you do that and I can feel all right there. Now, when I mentioned the kind of poor comfort on the 2X Pro gloves, a lot of people said they never noticed that. And maybe it's just the gloves that I happen to put on. I can notice if I'm also nitpicking stuff too and noticing a lot of things, because as you can see, I put on a ton of gloves, right? I love gloves. I kind of collect gloves. I love feeling gloves. I notice things that some people, like other people, might not. Like right here, you can notice this one, but it's so much better than what these ones are. That's not an issue at all. So it's kind of disappointing in that sense. These definitely have, in my opinion, gone down in quality in the last couple of years. Like Bauer does seem to be kind of cutting corners and cutting some costs, and it's kind of disappointing with that. Same thing here. So now we will do the standardized hand testing. So we had the 2S Pro. I did this one in the video, which will be up here. It fits like a normal glove. These are 14s, so theoretically this one should be bigger. So I'll put that in and we'll see what the results are. This cuff is super annoying to get it in there because it's super, super tight. All right, so that is the 15-inch hand that's closest to my hands I could get in there. And you can see the fingertips coming out there. I can relax it a little bit, but my fingertips blast through these two. This fits like a 14. It's labeled a 14. It's a fit 14. Bauer's been pretty decent in terms of like length sizing of these and the vapors in terms of their size. This is absolutely a 14. This is coming through. This hand needs to be in a 15, just the way it is. My 15s would work good for it. I grabbed the 14, so we're at a standard size all the time. We'll throw this one in, that glove, just so you get an idea of where it fits. So we have the 14 hand in there, and you can see the fingers are right at the edge, and right there, and right there. So a 14, basically, right on a 14. They fit true to size, snug to size though too, really snug. So we have the 15, 14 in there, 15, blowing out the edges, 14, it's good. So true to size, if you wear 14 Bauer right now, it will be a 14 Bauer. That's just how it is. So going for fit of this glove too, it fits extremely snug everywhere. The cuff right, like the cuff part too, basically this all the way through, is super snug. And the reason being is so it really flexes with your wrist, and it's kind of like tight to go in there, but it's not restrictive once it's on your hand, and it feels pretty good. Obviously this is going to be tight all the way through here because it's following your wrist, but it's not like restrictive or anything. It feels to me right, but that is kind of how it is right there. Tight in the backhand, tight in the fingers, Supreme all the way. That's how they always are. Tight, tight, tight. Closest to this retail from what I've seen so far is basically a jet speed. Obviously don't have that flex cuff, but everything else is really tight all the way through. So the FT4s, like for example, that I did recently, pretty similar fit profile all the way through. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm not buying this glove. I love the flex cuff. I love them adding that. There's a few nice little touches on here, like these 2 3-piece fingers. But overall, this glove just doesn't do enough to differentiate it in terms of like the whole package from the 2S Pro. Now, if I wanted a flex cuff, I would do that, but I have 11Ks, I have 12Ks, I have Warrior QR Edge with Reebok cuffs in it. So I have all these other flex cuff gloves I can go to. So I don't really need to go into here, but if you're looking for a flex cuff, honestly, it's better than the Warrior QRE10. It's better than the Warrior QRE. So it's a solid glove. If you don't buy Pro Stock, it's one of like the better retail gloves there is. So definitely check it out if that's what you're looking for. It's super comfortable except for those few spots. It's overall a really good glove, and I was a huge fan of this and definitely thought this was like my favorite retail glove at the time. This is up there. I'm slightly disappointed because I do feel like, again, Bauer's kind of cutting costs and kind of cheapening out on some things, and they're not making quite as quality as they used to. It's still a good glove. It's still comfortable. It's kind of like the FT4 Pro. It's solid. It's just not like as good as it could be, and that's disappointing to me. Retail is kind of its own thing. I get that they need to go lightweight because if it's a little bit too heavy, like this thing is a brick in compared to this. If it's too heavy, if it's not super broken out of like off the shelf, people won't buy it. But you could do so much more in this just in terms of protection and stuff like that, that I think it would be kind of better, and it would make it better and would easily be by far and away the best glove on the market. Would I recommend it? If you need new gloves, try it on, see what it is. Honestly, these on sale now because this is out. This is going to be a better buy, and if you don't want that flex cuff and you want a kind of a more open cuff, because this does bloom quite a lot, again, this is a great option. Pretty solid glove overall. This one you just get the flex cuff, and that's the big bonus there. So thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully it was helpful. If this video was helpful and making a purchase, please reach out to the manufacturer on social media, let them know. I'm not one of their marketing guys. I didn't get any of the Hyperlight stuff, for example. I'm just talking about my experiences and how I think companies could do some things better, or if their gloves are good. Like I said, this is a decent retail glove. It just could be so much better. You made better. Anyways, Hopefully this video is helpful. Let me know your thoughts on this glove. If you tried it on, what you thought on it. If you have these ones, what you think of it. And if you're gonna buy them, leave the comment in the comments. Let me know. I always like to hear the community feedback. If you want to support the channel and live in the United States, check out the link in the description to Pure Hockey, where you can buy these gloves. Click that link, make a purchase. Gives me a kickback to help support the channel and helps me do more long-term reviews and real reviews. Otherwise, check out Patreon, buy me a coffee. That will help support the channel as well. Be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you check out the 3S Pro glove video and take it easy.
You're watching HockeyReviews.ca.